30 days ago, I began a challenge. I decided to push myself to use a strict calendar every day for 30 days. The goal being to see if I could maintain a schedule that would allow me to reach several goals that I had set out for myself. The question is, who would win, me or the calendar? My name is Ryan and I am part of the Icario team. I am all about self-development and self-improvement. I love it, I live it, and my goal is to help others become better as well as myself. When I moved to Lisbon to work with the team here, I faced a problem. I had many goals and things I wanted to improve, but I didn't know how to make sure I could fit it all into my days and my weeks. And to make this happen, I decided to put my money where my mouth is and use a calendar approach to try and make sure I was ticking all of those boxes. This video is the result of me documenting those 30 days and seeing what happened. And while I wish it was all downhill, the challenge turned out to be more of a battle. Welcome to my 30-day calendar challenge vlog. Basically, why am I doing this, right? Well, when I moved here to Lisbon, which is where we are now working with Shane, it was a situation where there's a lot of things I want to do. There's a lot of goals that I want to accomplish, and it felt like I was trying to do too much. So I basically was like, okay, I have two options here. Option number one is I can just get rid of a lot of these things and just make my life a lot easier, have less stuff on my plate. Or option number two is I can come up with some kind of system to organize these things so that I can have a consistent plan for when I'm gonna do the specific task to work towards my goal. The reason I think the calendar is so important in this circumstance has to do with the topic Shane talks about with regard to reaching goals, called lead indicators.
So a lead indicator is basically the opposite of what I've talked about so far, right? Where the results are lagging behind the work we do now. And a lead indicator is, well, what is the thing that comes before? What is the thing that leads to the outcome eventually?
The idea of a lead indicator is that we can't control whether we reach our goals or not. All we can do is focus on the actions that are going to lead to those goals, potentially. If your goal was to make $1 million, that is the lagging indicator. That's what you see after you put the work in. The lead indicator are things you can measure and do every day to work towards that goal. For example, if I want to learn Portuguese, which I do, how well I speak Portuguese is the lagging indicator, but I can't directly control that. All I can do is focus on the lead indicator, which is how much I study every day. And the idea of this challenge is that I put those lead indicators in my calendar to make sure that I'm doing all that I need to eventually get to that goal. This is day one of me following the strict calendar challenge. And I just woke up, I did my morning routine. The idea of the morning routine is a lot of the things I want to do every day, such as meditation, my affirmations, journaling. I do that in the morning in a structured routine to get it over with. I found the morning routine worked really well. I found it to be very peaceful. Now we're heading to the gym. I'm with Ollie, who I call Ollie Bobs. Say hi.
Hello. Please don't let that nickname stick.
And Jonas, the sleepy German. Say hi, Jonas, the sleepy German.
No.
Jonas, the sleepy German.
I'm not sleeping, I'm meditating.
Okay, so I've returned from the gym, but it's 9:52. That means I have 8 minutes to shower, get out of the shower, sit down, and start my work session at 10 o'clock. This is gonna be stressful. Confession, I'm at Shane's now to work, and yeah, I didn't give myself enough time. So if you look at my calendar here, I had the work session planned out for 1:30. My last one ended at 1. And there is no way that I could end my work session, eat, and get here on time. Okay, so basically the thing with this is that I feel like if I don't have a calendar, then I'm gonna miss things, and I'm not gonna do the things that I want to do while I'm here. And like I have felt overwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, so you can think of it as like the calendar can be very useful, but it can also be a tyrant. And like here's how I think of this. It's clear that the problem you're dealing with is a common problem. Anyone who wants to improve their life is going to affect and be relevant to many dimensions, right? So it's going to, you want to be healthy and you want to be fit and you want to have a good social life and you want to do this and that, and it's like you're interested in many things, and that's kind of part of the problem, right? But you can think of it like as a thought experiment. Obviously, if you keep adding stuff into your calendar, at some point it's going to be too much. And you have to be careful of like, how do you ride the line, right?
Right.
Because I think the mistake that's very common with anything self-improvement is that we have like a wave of enthusiasm. Maybe you just read a book that's super inspiring, and then you're like, yes, I'm going to change my life. And you decide, I'm going to do these 15 things. And you put it all in your calendar. But then what happens is, pretty quickly you're like, oh crap, I should have gotten up at 5 a.m. in order to be able to do all the stuff I'm supposed to do before 9 so that I can do all this other stuff, but I slept in until 9. So, and then it feels like my entire day is already ruined, right? And so I think that's something to be aware of, is how do you work with this? Like, how do you ride the line? Because what's definitely not going to work is if you just pile your calendar full of stuff and then you hate yourself because you're not doing it,
Yeah.
So what happened?
I completely failed my calendar for day one. I said I was prioritizing my dating life and social life, and this girl I met, she was going home, so today was last night was the last night I could see her. And that quickly deraveled my schedule. I didn't do the Portuguese from last night that I was supposed to do. And I woke up this morning and I just was late for my first work session. Yeah, I guess that's it. Like, I need to try and do better, but right now it's like, how do you fuck up on day one, man? Basically, I have 7 goals that I'm trying to reach and 7 lead indicators that are going to be scheduled in my calendar relating to those goals, basically making sure I work on each one every week. The first of those goals is Acario. Obviously, being the full-time business I'm working on, it takes up the majority of my schedule, as it should. Next is the morning routine. The goal here is to be more at peace, less stressed, more mindfulness, etc. I do this first thing when I wake up. Then I want to become stronger, more fit, healthier, so I'll be going to the gym 3 to 4 days a week. And then the next thing is going to be working on improving my posture. For those of you who don't know, I have a side business that's about posture improvement, so it's important that I continue to improve as well. And that leads me to the 6th thing, which is working on my business, which I'm going to be doing 3 nights a week in 90-minute sessions. And finally, last but not least, I want to work on learning Portuguese. This is something I've always wanted to do, to learn another language, so I'm going to be doing this in 3 one-hour study sessions throughout the week. And the 7th and last one is going to be socializing and dating. Now, I'm not going to put that in the calendar. That's just going to kind of fall into place where it will. All right, so here's a quick look at how the week went, what I missed, what I didn't miss. Yeah, it's obvious I missed a lot of things, particularly the things at night. Were difficult to do. I think at the end of the day, you're just drained. You don't have the willpower anymore. And then on Sunday, we went to the beach. We had a great day. And that's why I missed a bunch of the stuff on Sunday. Week 1 didn't go nearly as planned, but I was determined to bounce back. My goal is to try and make this calendar work. So I'm hoping if I could iron out the kinks in my week, I could have a successful week 2. With everything clearly not going according to plan, I'm going to go talk to Shane about how I can tweak this schedule going forward so that it works better for me. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So let's change some things.
Also, because we do focus and action and stuff, like you've got loads of tools of like habit building, environment optimization, and so on. And that's what I'd look at here. So for example, can you attach one of the things that is at the end of the day that you that you dislike doing or struggle to do, can you attach one of those things to one of the easy things in the morning? But then also, is there any way in which you can make the hard thing more enjoyable and feel less like the hard thing?
Yeah, so right now I'm using the app, like the Memorize. It's an app for the Portuguese thing, and I just do it on the couch because usually I'm tired at the end of the day or whatever. Part of me likes that because it's like it doesn't feel like work, and like these guys are watching something on TV, and I can just kind of lounge there. I put my headphones on and I put the app on. But one thing I've noticed with doing that is that an hour is too long. Like an hour of just doing that is way too long.
Did you go on a Portuguese date?
Don't end well.
But you know what I mean? It's like if you think about the task, I have to do an hour of Portuguese a day. Well, who cares? You want to speak Portuguese, right? So, and I don't have a lot of experience using learning languages, but I have tried learning a language using one of these apps before, and it seemed to me that I could sink lots of hours into that app and still not speak the language, right? Whereas if you're kind of forced in a situation where it's like, okay, I just have to actually talk to a person, and if that, I'm saying date, because what if that person's attractive and you want to talk to her?
Yeah.
I think you might learn way more than swiping through an app, you know?
I think one thing I could do is just actually get like a lesson, like once a week, get like a tutor like Gia does. Because then you have to speak to them in Portuguese, and that would also force me to be accountable. It's like if I paid for this and I have this thing, then I have to do it. Yeah, I might do that.
I think you may have set the goal too high initially.
Yeah.
But an hour is a long time.
It's fucking
To
long.
pay a lot of attention to an app and to do something difficult like learning a language, it's like set yourself up to do an hour after the rest of the stuff you're doing in the day. It's like you're trying to implement multiple habits at once, and then at the end of the day, to unwind, you've now got to do an hour's worth of Portuguese. It's like you're better off, I would say, is picking a time frame that's almost impossible to not do. So like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then, or 15 minutes, as you said. 15 minutes is way more palatable than an hour.
Yes, I know, you have a point. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look into those like the online school that Gia said, and then I'll contact them and see what they say. And all right, so it's Wednesday of week 3. I want to put my stretching in the morning, so that way it's also something that I do right after my other habits, so it's easier for me not to miss it. With the Portuguese, if I have someone keeping me accountable and I'm paying for it, then I know I'm gonna do it. So hopefully this helps, and we'll see what happens. Jonas, I need to ask you something. Do you use the schedule?
No,
Why not?
because it makes me feel fucking stuck. I know what I need to do is my priority, I do it. That's all I need.
Do you ever find that you don't get things done or you miss things?
Yeah.
You do?
I guess that's like a human experience, so.
Okay, but you don't think a schedule would help you with that?
No.
So you find that you can do everything you need to do for business and personal stuff, and just fine?
As good as I can do it every day, yes. Well, I tried to put like a structure together and shit, but it always makes me feel like I have a fucking prison and stuff. I don't like to know what I will do in 2 weeks, because then it feels like the future is written already.
Yes, that kind of makes sense.
I have like push phases, right? So I only work on the film side of stuff, and then it gets too much, and then I'm like, all right. And then I do other things mostly.
So basically your life is just work on films and then whatever else you want to do.
Yes.
So simple. All right, let me give an update. Okay, what happened this week, guys? It was a pretty good week for me. My morning routine was on point. I wasn't hitting snooze as much as I usually do, which is a good thing, because I find that when I hit snooze, once the morning routine gets unraveled, then everything else kind of falls apart, right? So I basically hit most of the things on my schedule that I wanted to hit this week, which feels good. I keep having this feeling that I want to focus more on my business than I am. And other than that, I think the schedule is working. I might make some changes for week 4. I have 1 more week left to see how this is going. And all in all, I feel like I'm making progress, so that's good. And yeah. I'm interviewing you.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Do you use a schedule?
Do I use a schedule? No. I use a schedule, a rough sort of vibe for how I want my mornings to go. But I don't usually follow a schedule.
Why?
Because I tried in the past, tried planning every hour of my day, and within about a week I was rebelling against myself. I was like my own tyrant, and I didn't like it. So, you know, not for me. Not for me.
Who do you think can successfully use a schedule?
People who need tightening up for a little bit, you know? You get some people that need loosening up, some people need tightening up.
So you think you're a little loosey-goosey or a little tight, or what?
I could probably do with tightening up at the moment.
We're gonna go find Shane and ask him what he thinks.
The only thing I can get in the way is that somehow I don't get enough customers. Yeah, very bad news for us.
This is bad. Heading into week 4, it felt like things were going pretty well, but my body had a different opinion. I got sick, really sick, for 5 days, and I basically couldn't eat. I had some type of stomach virus thing, and definitely not something that I'm going to get into here. I really wanted to make this some happy, dramatic ending to the story where, like, you know, I cracked the code to the calendar and the challenge went amazing and I did all these things. Now I'm speaking fluent Portuguese and lifting all this weight and all this stuff. But that's not how it went. So we're on the way to Shane's now and we're gonna talk about this, right, Jonas?
Yes, we are.
And that's basically it. Like, you can't overload yourself. You can't push yourself too much. So I'm curious to see what a better approach to this would have been, because clearly it was just a little bit too stressful for me. So we'll see you there.
Jason.
Okay, so I recorded a clip earlier and I was basically just like, look, I want this video to end in like a happy, like triumphant moment, but like it just didn't.
Yeah, so I think 2 things about this. The first is that I remember reading about this, I think on Tim Ferriss' blog, on some post about powerlifting, where some guy, and I can't remember if this was Pavel Tsatsouline or some other, you know, Russian strong person, talked about how basically said something like everybody is on a training cycle of load and deload. Everybody. Some people do it deliberately, right? So you deload and then you ramp up the weights and the intensity and so on, and then you deload and so on. And some people don't do it deliberately. What they do is they just push harder and harder and harder, and then they get injured, and then they have to take a break, which is a deload. And then once they're feeling better again, they have to start at a lower weight because they lost some strength because of their injury. And so then they climb up the ladder again, and then they get injured, and that's a deload, right? And so it's like, you can't escape this. You cannot escape this principle. And when I read that, at the time, it was just like a wake-up moment for me, because that's exactly what I had been doing, you know? I'd always just been pushing as hard as possible, getting injured, pushing as hard as possible, getting injured. It's like, this is clearly not a great system. And so I think there's something similar that you've experienced here, where essentially if you try to push super hard without taking breaks, you're somehow forced to take a break. It happens anyway. So yeah, it's interesting that this happened. And then the other thing is, yeah, you have this balance, like you want structure, but you also want freedom. And one thing you could try is to approach it from the perspective of reduction instead of addition. Because I think what you did is you added a fuckload of stuff into your calendar, and then it becomes overwhelming and oppressive. But instead, what you just said about decisions, if you think about how do I remove decisions,
Right.
then that feels much less oppressive. That doesn't feel constricting. If I'm like, hey, it's nice, I don't have to make decisions about mealtime and stuff like that because it's all pre-planned.
Okay,
That
yeah.
doesn't feel like a prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe you've actually, with what you just said right now, maybe that is the solution for, you know, for a round 2 of doing something like this, or for trying to reach your goals, because essentially you have all these goals.
Yeah.
You tried to reach those goals by adding lots of stuff, and it
Right.
became too much. So can you reach the goals instead by like clearing the path, so that Yeah, so it's like less friction and less distraction and less decision making, and essentially it's almost like with more efficiency getting there instead of with more effort.
Yeah.
Maybe the takeaway is you can tell people what not to do.
The two things I'd say is like understand why you're going to use a schedule if you're going to use it, and the second thing is like try to create a schedule that doesn't feel like a schedule, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't feel like, oh, I have to live my life. You know? But,
Yeah.
and that's how it started to feel for a bit. It was like, fuck all this.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can understand why you want to make the schedule, and obviously it is to provide discipline and structure and stuff like this, but then also create it in a way where you're still living your life in an enjoyable way, then I think that's a healthy way to do, like a good way to do it. Why would you potentially want to use a calendar for yourself? If you have a lot of things that you want to achieve or a lot of goals and you have a busy life, you have to make sure you're getting those leading indicators in. So if you have a business that you're trying to work on the side, you need to make sure that you're putting work in consistently every week. You know, I've talked to a lot of people about schedules. Some people prefer them, some people don't. I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. Do you use a schedule and are you considering it?